Just before you watch this video, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving you medical advice. If you're afraid at all, if you have any doubts about your own abilities to stop drinking alcohol without problems, go to visit your doctor. If you think that you've got a medical condition because you're drinking alcohol and you're afraid that that's going to impact on you when you stop drinking, go to see your doctor. Don't go to YouTube videos expecting answers for this, right? Even if it was the best doctor in the world, the most qualified doctor in the world, and you were watching his videos, they would generally tell you to go and see an individual doctor because it all is an individual thing. So they're going to look at you and look at your history, and be able to tell whether or not you've got any problems. So do that. All right, watch the video. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about topic is do not stop drinking if you are physically addicted, and this is from a comment by a guy called Bill Crawford, and he says, do not stop drinking if you are a physically addicted alcoholic. That can kill you. Detox under medical supervision, then go sober, and it will be worth it. So I agree with the last bit. Once you're sober, it's going to be worth it. But I want to keep this tight. I mean, I can get dragged down so many different rabbit holes with this topic. There's so many different levels that I think that this is wrong. So I'm going to try and keep it as tight as possible. As to the person who's left the message, this is, I hear this all the time, and I really believe that people who are leaving messages like this, they mean well, right? They're not coming from a place of meanness or anything like that. I think that they're genuinely trying to, or they think they're genuinely trying to help people. But I think something like this, let's look at first just the words that we're using there. Alcoholic is a word which I hate. I've always hated it. I hated it ever since before I stopped drinking alcohol, and I hated it afterwards, and I never called myself an alcoholic ever. Physically addicted is another word, another phrase, I suppose. That is, I look at both of these words, right? Alcoholic and physically addicted, and both of them are very ambiguous, right? There is no definition that anyone can agree on. I mean, doctors actually don't, a lot of doctors don't use the term alcoholic anymore. They tend to go with alcohol use disorder or alcohol use syndrome, and that's closer to the truth in my opinion, but it's still an ambiguous term. It's still full of it's just vague. It doesn't mean anything, and you can attach any meaning to it, and that's the biggest problem as far as I'm concerned. They're just abstract terms. For instance, if you go to a doctor and if I go skiing and I fall over and I break my leg and I get taken to the hospital, and the doctor comes out and he goes, yeah, you've got a broken leg, and most sane doctors will agree with his diagnosis, right, and say, yeah, you've got a broken leg. If I've got cirrhosis of the liver, right, again, most sane doctors, if they've got all the information there, they will say this is cirrhosis of the liver. That will be their diagnosis. Alcoholic cardiomyopathy, that's another one. They'll say, yeah, this is what you've got. Most sane things, blah blah blah, this is the symptoms, we've checked it out, and this is what you've got. With alcoholic or alcohol use disorder, they can't do that, right? I mean, most of them will say, well, you've got this because you're presenting with problems. You're coming in with issues involving alcohol. Now, the biggest problem that I see with anybody who's talking about alcohol is they're starting from the wrong premise. They're starting from the premise that there is normal alcohol drinking, right? Just let that sink in, and I want you to compare it with other drugs. Do you hear anybody nowadays saying that there is any such thing as normal cigarette smoking? Right? Do you hear anybody saying there is normal heroin injecting, or normal heroin smoking, or normal heroin snorting? Right? Nobody will say that to you. So they start from the perspective of, if you are smoking cigarettes, right, you have a problem. This is they can call it, there is actually a nicotine use disorder, but I don't know why they're doing that. If you're smoking a cigarette, or you're smoking 10 cigarettes, you've still got a problem. I'll give you an example. My father, when he was smoking, this is years ago, I suppose, when I was in my late teens, I smoked at the time, and I would smoke maybe 10 cigarettes a day, so half a packet every day. My dad would smoke between 3 and 4 packets a day, so between 60 and 80 cigarettes. Now, he didn't light them up and tug them and inhale them like I was doing. He would light one up and just leave it in his mouth until it burned down. Every so often he'd take a puff off it and blow it out. But he wasn't chain smoking like I would have done, right? My mum, on the other hand, she would smoke maybe a full packet of 20 a week. Now, we were all 3 of us, physically addicted to the cigarettes. And it just depends then on a scale. My mum was physically addicted, but she only had 1 packet a week, but she was still needed that 1 packet every week. I was physically addicted, but I only needed 1 packet every 2 days, right? But I still needed that 1 packet every 2 days. I mean, I gradually increased the supply until I was smoking a packet and a half, maybe 30 cigarettes a day. My dad, on the other hand, he was physically addicted, but he needed 3 to 4 packets of cigarettes per day. So the definition of physically addicted is there across the board, and it should be used across the board. Once you're doing something that is dangerous and damaging to your health and you can't stop doing it, you're dependent on it, you are physically addicted to it. If you can't stop, if you've got urges when you stop and cravings when you stop, and even if you're smoking 1 cigarette a day, right, there is an element of physical addiction to that if you are doing it every day. And if you need to do that, I mean, generally somebody will do it, whatever. If somebody's smoking a cigarette a day, what are they going to do? At the end of the dinner or something like that? Or maybe the first thing in the morning? Or maybe they smoke half of it and then half of it later on, right? There's, I don't know many people who do that, but I'm sure it's a case in some cases. So let's go back to alcohol use disorder. I think that's closer to the truth, right? Alcohol use, the alcohol use. So you can apply that to nicotine use, cocaine use, heroin use. You're getting closer to the problem. But the fact that they add a disorder onto the end of that, it just is problematic as far as I'm concerned, because it adds an element of a massive element of ambiguity. It goes back to that abstractness. It's not the fact that you're using the alcohol, it's you have a disorder because you're using it, right? And it's generally the way things are. People will drink and drink and drink, and it's only when you have a problem with alcohol that people outside will look at you and say to you, oh no, you need to get help there, you need to do this. I mean, I've stopped drinking alcohol, and I mentioned to somebody that stopped drinking alcohol, and then they were saying to me, it was somebody I was trying to get work off, and they were saying to me, oh, what about your alcohol drinking? I said to you, I stopped drinking. I don't drink alcohol. But they still insisted, oh, what happens if you go back? But it was like, that was when I had the problem, and nobody thought I had a problem, right? It was just a normal person back then. So, it's an upside down thinking. And it's because the people who are making these rules, who are creating these labels, alcoholic, alcohol use disorder, all the other ones that are there, these are people who drink themselves more than likely. The people who make the rules are drinkers. The people who enforce the rules are drinkers. The people who are teaching your children are drinkers, right? These are all, you would never allow somebody who was using heroin to teach your children. If you found out that somebody who was using heroin was making the rules, or was the judge, or was the copper who arrested you, they would be in trouble. So it's double standards, and it's hypocritical. Now, my whole point of this is to look at what the risk is, because the insinuation of this guy at the beginning by saying that you need to get medically supervised detox is to say that you're in great danger, right? So what is the actual risk of this? Now, you can Google this yourself. Do not take my word for this, right? Go onto Google now and put in death by stopping drinking alcohol, right? Figures. And try and find the figures. They're very, very difficult to find. There's a couple of studies that have been done, but not many. And at most, it's in the hundreds. What you will find is lots and lots of media hype. So lots of newspaper articles, magazine articles about this person who tried to stop drinking alcohol. Amy Winehouse is one that comes up regularly. That person, this person tried to stop drinking alcohol, and look what happened to them. They dropped dead. All of this media hype is there. There's a lot of marketing hype that feeds into that. There is a lot of anecdotal stories So, people who are saying, I went through this, I went through loads of seizures, I went through the DTs, I was shaking a lot, I was vomiting, I nearly died. But there's not much solid evidence for any of this. There's a lot of people who will say, well, I've gone through this, this is what I went through, so my definition is the truest, right? So you better listen to what I'm saying to you. Now, like I said, you will find maybe hundreds of deaths a year because of this, right? And I'm not taking away from any of the people who have died from this, right? It's still a tragic loss. But have a look at how many people die, and there's lots and lots and lots and lots of stories about this, lots of medical evidence, there's lots of scientific proof of this. Between 3 and 3.5 million people every year die from this, right? Have a look at the amount of people that have died from the last thing, right? The thing that they closed down the whole world for, right? This is nothing in comparison to what has gone on now, to how many people are dying every single year, right? So it's just one comparison to make. And when you say that you need to go and get medical attention, right, before you stop drinking, or medically, what did the guy say was medically induced, detox under medical supervision. Did you know that the third cause of death, right, after heart attack and cancer is medical mistakes? Over 250,000 people every single year in the United States alone. Now, I'm not saying to people, don't go to hospital or don't do this or don't do that, right? I believe if you've got any issues with this, you should go to your doctor. But I'm saying to people, use your common sense. I mean, if somebody has drank enough alcohol to put themselves in the state where they are in trouble, if they try and stop drinking alcohol, they're not healthy people, right? They don't look healthy. They look like they're about to drop dead, right? These are people who, under any normal circumstances, you would say, look, you need to go and get medical attention here, right? In the majority of cases, right? So the thing that annoys me the most about this, about the use of alcoholic, the use of all this ambiguity within this industry, is it keeps people drinking longer, right? If there wasn't this bullshit of, well, we have to start with the idea that there are normal alcohol drinkers and then there are abnormal alcohol drinkers, they would be able to tell the truth to kids, right? To say to you, the classroom full of kids, any amount of alcohol is bad for you. The same as they would with cigarettes. Any amount of cigarettes is bad for you. Don't start smoking because even one cigarette a day or whatever it is bad for you. Don't start taking heroin because it's bad for you. But they can't say that with alcohol because they start with this flawed perception. And words like alcoholic, they keep people like you and me drinking far longer than you should have been, because your idea, I mean, you're going through these things in your own head, the labels in your own mind, and you're saying to yourself, well, I might have a problem with alcohol, but I'm not an alcoholic, right? I might have a problem with alcohol, but I'm not really physically addicted to it, right? Because we're hiding this stuff from ourselves. We're only too happy to look at the things that we see that uphold our bad habits, right? That are giving us benefits from the bad habits, but we are ignoring all the stuff that goes against us, that's telling us the truth, including what's going on inside our own bodies, how we feel, how our life is going. And these words like alcoholic, they keep us going longer than we should be doing, And, if it wasn't for all this, like I said, you would be taught this kind of stuff when you were a kid. Most of us wouldn't have gone through half the shit that we've gone through in our lives if we'd been taught this stuff as kids. This stuff is poison to you. Don't put it near your body. Don't have it in your house. Just like heroin, just like other drugs. I mean, they don't even put alcohol and drugs in the same category. They go alcohol and drugs, not drugs. Alcohol is just as much of a drug as anything else, but they'll separate it out. It's called a beverage, So anyway, look, like I said, this is a topic that can drive me down some really mad rabbit holes. So if you want help stopping drinking alcohol, habitsv2.com. We're over there. We've got a lot of different things. We've got a full program of video every day, helping you gradually go through and change the mindsets and just change into that person who doesn't drink anymore. We've got live one-on-one sessions, we've got group sessions, we've got a forum, lots of different stuff, a big library full of old videos and courses that we've done over the years as well. So if you want If you have any questions at all, leave them down in the comments below, and we really choose them through the ones that are subscribed to the channel, so make sure you're subscribed as well. I'll finish it for today, and take care of yourself. I'll speak to you soon. Onwards and upwards. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth, eh? Onwards. Bye.